He will be taking in a bit of history this morning. October 6th, as I said yesterday, a number of individuals would have headed to Paynes Bay and spent some time around that special statue commemorating the Air Cubana bombing so many years ago. Always good to see Barbados' ambassador to CARICOM, David Commichon. He's been sharing with us all of those nuggets of information from around the region, but of course we focus on this event that really shaped the lives of Barbadians and of Cubans as well. Ambassador Commichon, great to have you with us this morning. Also with us, connected to the flight, as I said before, Odalis Perez. Now, she's the daughter of the Air Cubana Flight 455 Captain Wilfredo Perez. Gracias, and good to have you. Buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
And also interpreting for her, a good friend of mine, Mr. Henry, Jamal Henry. He will help us to understand the message from Odalis this morning. Great to have you on, Jamal.
Thank you.
So set the scene for us. Yesterday, a special day commemorating the event, the air bombing of the Air Cubana Flight 455. Tell us why we should never forget this event, which really helped to shape this connection between Barbados and Cuba.
Well, yesterday was the 49th anniversary of this 6th October 1976 terrible terrorist event that happened in our territorial space, where all 73 passengers on board that Cubana aircraft perished. And so the Cuban embassy, in partnership with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, held the usual solemn wreath-laying ceremony at the Cubana Monument in Paynes Bay. And that's the monument that Barbados, back in 1998, constructed to memorialize all of the victims. And you may recall that President Fidel Castro actually came to Barbados to officially open that monument. So we had, I represented the government of Barbados, we had the Cuban ambassador, we had from Guyana, the acting consul general, we had, of course, as our very special guest, Odalis, the daughter of the heroic pilot, Wilfredo Perez. And we say the heroic pilot because, you know, when he recognized that that plane was going down and there was nothing he could do, it was actually heading straight for Paradise Beach. And if it had crashed there, it would have killed many Barbadians. He took the plane back out to sea so that it went down in the waters of the Caribbean Sea. So, very moving ceremony yesterday morning. And then in the evening, we all went to the Cavell campus, where we had a discussion at the campus, myself, Odalis, and Dr. George Braffett. So we were commemorating, as I said, the 49th anniversary, but we were also commemorating the 3rd anniversary of the CARICOM Cuba Day Against Terrorism. And you asked me what effect that terrorist act had, what significance going forward. Well, I would say, well, number one, it really solidified the relationship between Barbados and Cuba, for sure. But in addition to that, that tragedy was a catalyst for the political leadership of Barbados to declare our Caribbean a zone of peace. So that tragedy in 1976, by 1979, Grenada was going before the Organization of American States with a resolution to declare our Caribbean region a zone of peace. And then secondly, in 2022, at the urging of Barbados, all of our CARICOM states and Cuba, we declared the 6th of October CARICOM Cuba Day Against Terrorism, a day on which we all come together to highlight the evils of terrorism and to denounce it. So, yes, it was a great tragedy. But out of that great tragedy, we were able to use it as a catalyst for two very important constructs: Caribbean as a zone of peace and a day against terrorism.
And a real eye-opener that Barbados is not excluded from this kind of event. So we really need to, always be alert and make sure our aviation authorities do their checks and balances on both ends to ensure that there's no repeat of such situation.
Yeah, well, this I say that event was the poster child of international terrorism. That event took place a full quarter century before the infamous 9/11 in New York, and that was the first time that a passenger plane full of passengers was used as an instrument of terror. And this is why we say that if you wanted to find a day to designate a day against terrorism, the correct day is the 6th of October.
And you're right in saying that Wilfredo Perez, Odales' father, is the hero of this event, because he saved so many more lives on land, protecting Barbadians who could have been affected and would have possibly lost their lives in this event as well if he didn't take the evasive action that he did. Jamal is going to interpret for Miss Odales Perez. Please, can you ask her what was yesterday like for her, paying respects for those who would have lost their lives, including her father, at the monument?
¿Cómo fue ahí el evento en el monumento para usted, prestando respeto para su papá y los que perdieron sus vidas en aquellos eventos? ¿Cómo le fue? ¿Cómo le pasó?
Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Good morning.
Bueno, realmente es impactante estar acá y ver la playa de Barbados, una playa, yo digo que es una playa hermosa.
So it's really impactful being here and seeing the very beach and ocean. It's a very beautiful beach.
Y imaginarse cómo hace 49 años atrás un avión a 18,000 pies de altura pudo explotar en pleno vuelo y caer en esa playa hermosa de Barbados.
Imagine a plane flying at 18,000 feet and just explode all of a sudden over this beautiful beach in Barbados.
O sea, fue un momento de mucho dolor, o sea, experimentar realmente y ver, imaginar cómo sucedió ese horrendo crimen.
So it was really a painful moment to see and imagine how this horrible crime unfolded.
How old were you when you lost your father?
¿Qué edad tenía usted cuando perdió su papá?
10 años.
She was 10 years old.
Wow. So imagine a 10-year-old having to bear that loss at that time. The loss of her dad, someone that she's so close to, so closely connected to. That is tough. That is indeed tough. I really, please, and if you can translate that to her, tell her how appreciative we are of her coming here to share in this moment, and our condolences to her and her family.
Que apreciamos mucho que usted haya venido acá a compartir ese momento junto con nosotros y expresar nuestras condolencias a usted y su familia.
Gracias. Quien se sienta agradecida soy yo.
So thank you, and I'm the one that really am grateful to you.
Por estar aquí y dejarme, como ayer dije, estar cerca, porque lo sentí, de mi papá.
To be able to be here, and as I said yesterday, to be able to be close, because I felt it, close to my father.
De sentirlo porque realmente de mi papá no se encontró ningún resto, o sea, yo no tengo dónde ponerle una flor a mi papá, porque no tengo posibilidades de tener los restos de su cuerpo.
And she really felt it because, and the ability to be here, simply because they were never able to find the remains of her father. She doesn't even have a place to lay flowers in remembrance of her dad, because they never were able to find his remains.
Yeah. Your father is a hero.
Su papá es un héroe.
A hero, and we really thank and we praise him this morning, salute him, because he saved so many more lives here in Barbados. We're sorry, we're so regretful that so many lives were lost, but he saved so many more.
Le agradecemos mucho las acciones de su papá, porque de verdad salvó bastantes vidas. Arrepentamos que hayan perdido tantos, pero a la misma vez salvó tantas vidas.
Thank you, eso lo sabemos.
So, thank you very much.
Shane, if I could say, after the incident, the Barbados government set up a commission of inquiry into the incident, and I have here the report of that commission of inquiry, and some of the findings, and I just read very quickly. Of the commission of inquiry was headed by Justice Denise Williams. Findings: the flight crew members were properly licensed and qualified for the flight. 2. The pilots carried out their flight duties in a professional manner. No actions of theirs could have averted this tragedy. The aircraft was certificated and maintained in accordance with approved procedures. And then they go on, an explosive device was detonated in the rear of the passenger cabin during flight. But I just want to make the point that even the Commission of Inquiry fully exonerated the pilot. There was nothing the pilot could have done. The pilot did his best in the circumstances. And you asked earlier, something, what might have come out. One of the things that came out of that whole incident, came out of this Commission of Inquiry, was that the Commission of Inquiry discovered that back then, that one of the reasons that the plane went down was in addition to the explosion and the fire, but the material inside the aircraft being burnt produced toxic gases.
Wow.
And the Commission of Inquiry recommended to the international civil aviation authorities that research needed to be done to produce material for commercial aircraft that, if it burnt, would not produce toxic gases. So Barbados could very well have made a very important contribution to improving international aviation standards. The other point I just want to make, I want to introduce you to this book. This is a book called The Cubana Story.
And I want you to save that for when we return, because we want to share that book with our viewers this morning and some information on the flight. Remember, this happened 49 years ago, so some young people who are watching Morning Barbados today weren't alive at the time. So this information, amazing to them to believe that a terrorist act could have originated possibly right here in Barbados. More details on this to come here on the Tuesday edition of Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Morning Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Afar segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morningbarbados@cbc.vb, and together we will travel the world.
God will not give you a job. God will not call you to do something and then not give you the capacity to have it, to make it happen. He will give you the resources. He'll give you the people. Not only will He equip you with ideas, but He will equip you with favor, as He did Nehemiah.
Turn on the latest episode of Infinite Possibilities, only on CBC TV8, every Sunday at 1:30 p.m., sponsored by Covenant Life Teaching Center.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We're commemorating the Air Cubana bombing. 49 years ago, this event occurred, a terrorist act. No Bajans lost their lives on that flight, but I want to give you some more details on Flight 455. It was a Cuban flight from Barbados to Jamaica that was brought down yesterday, October 6, 1976, by two terrorist bombs. All 73 people on board the Douglas DC-8 aircraft lost their lives after that plane crashed into the sea just off Barbados. Several CIA-linked anti-Castro Cuban exiles were implicated by the evidence, and a lot of that evidence coming out after those investigations. More nuggets of evidence in that report that you shared with us earlier. Now, 11 minutes after takeoff from Sewell Airport, now the Grantley Adams International Airport, two bombs exploded on board. Realizing a successful landing was no longer possible, it appears the pilot, Mr. Perez, he would have turned the aircraft away from the island and towards the Sea of Porters, St. James, potentially saving the lives of many on the ground. It's a story reiterated here this morning already, of course, with information coming from Ambassador Comichon. You're speaking about this book that you're presenting to us now, speaking about the events around Flight 455.
Yes, well, this book was produced in 2021. And I felt the need, we hear 73 people perished in the Cubana disaster. You know, those two Venezuelan terrorists, the flight came in from Trinidad. They got on the plane in Trinidad. The flight came from, it was coming from Guyana, Trinidad, Barbados, Jamaica, Cuba. So they got on the plane in Trinidad with those bombs. During the flight from Trinidad to Barbados, they planted those two bombs in the rear section of the aircraft. They got off the aircraft in Barbados when it landed. And so when the flight then took off from Barbados to go to Jamaica, the bombs exploded when the plane was in the air. But anyhow, the point is, we say 73 people perish. Everybody on the aircraft perish. But 73 is just a number. And I came across a short story by a Cuban writer, Juan Carlos Rodriguez, a short story that tells the story of those 73 people during those 10 minutes or so of terror. The emotions, who they were, their names. Many of them were young Cuban athletes, fencers. 11 Guyanese, 7 of them were young students who had just won scholarships to study medicine in Cuba. So this book really humanizes this event and shows the real human beings who were impacted. Some families really never recovered. Families that lost loved ones. People back in Cuba were traumatized, you know, you just lose your loved one like that. I think Odalis is probably one of the lucky ones that was still able to go on, you know, to pull her life together and to be the person that she is today. But people went into depression, for example. So there's this book. This book, it lists all of the names of the victims. It features photographs of the pain and trauma that the nation of Cuba went through. And so this is a copy for you, Shane.
Thank you.
A copy for you. And yeah, so it's so important that what Barbados does every year in trying to commemorate this, bring it to the attention of people, the horrors of terrorism. And the fact that you're really talking about the lives of real human beings being impacted. And that is not, that is not the world we want. So terrorism is really a scourge that we must all play a part in removing from our world.
And right at the top of the list, Wilfredo Perez. It is a book, and I know you will tell us, Ambassador Comenshaw, where people can get their hands on a copy of this book. For you, Odalis, talk to us about life for you after you found out your father would have passed so tragically in this crash.
Háblanos un poquito sobre cómo le fue en la vida después de que usted se enteró que su papá haya fallecido en este evento.
Bueno, en la vida y en la vida actual ahora, o sea, porque siempre un padre hace falta. Y yo prácticamente no lo tuve, a los 10 años me lo mataron.
So, in life right now, fathers are necessary. And I practically didn't have one because at 10 years old, they killed mine.
Es la presencia también de esa fuerza, o sea, masculina en una casa, en una familia, que no lo tuvimos. Mi papá lo mataron con 36 años.
There's also the factor of a masculine presence in a home, within the house, within the family, which we didn't have because, again, they killed my dad when he was just 36 years old.
Wow.
Nos privaron, mi mamá tenía 32 años y yo tengo dos hermanos más, 4 años y 2 años. O sea, nos privaron de por vida de tener la presencia de nuestro papá.
And my mother at the time was 32 years old. I had 2 siblings who were 4 and 2 at that time as well. And they deprived us for our entire lives of having a father.
Y hay momentos en la vida de uno que necesita la presencia del padre. Sobre todo allá en Cuba hay momentos donde nos casamos y estamos con nuestros padres, cumpleaños que no pudimos celebrar con nuestros padres, alegrías de una nota en la universidad, de graduarse en la universidad, que no tuvimos tampoco presencia de nuestro padre.
And there were pivotal moments in my life in our lives as children and growing up, when we would have really felt the necessity for the presence of our father. For example, birthdays, graduations, where we got married, all of those are times which traditionally the presence of one's father is felt to be most necessary.
Y hay decisiones también en la vida que uno tiene que tomar y preguntar también un consejo a un padre y no lo tenemos.
And there are also decisions that one might need to make in life from time to time, and one would appreciate the advice, fatherly advice, and that was also something that was taken from us.
Mi madre se murió de tristeza y también murió en el mes de octubre.
My mom died of sadness, and she also passed away in the month of October.
Que marca mucho la vida también de una familia. Mi madre siempre dijo que ella moría en octubre y murió en octubre, el 29 de octubre. Falleció a los 65 años, pero con mucha tristeza porque la invadió la tristeza, más nunca mi mamá se casó. O sea, vivió para nosotros, para criarnos, éramos niños muy pequeños, pero realmente la tristeza la invadió y falleció también en el mes de octubre.
My mom was invaded by sadness, and she had said that she would die in October, and she did. The 29th of October, she passed away at 65 years old. She never remarried. She lived for us, for her children, but she really was invaded by sadness throughout her life.
Shane, I just want to make the point that we are hearing a personal story of what victimization caused this one family. But the victimization of the nation and people of Cuba sadly continues up to this day, Cuba has been the primary target of terrorism. From the time of the triumph of that Cuban Revolution, Cuba has been subjected to over 700 acts of terrorism, many of them orchestrated and directed by terrorist elements in the territory of the United States of America. And yet, in addition to Cuba being that kind of target of terrorism, then you have the U.S. Placing Cuba on their list of state sponsors of terrorism, supreme irony.
Yes.
And continuing with this blockade of Cuba, imposing these terrible punitive sanctions on this Caribbean country for 62 years now.
And these are some tough situations, but it's always great that we can share the information and hear this personal account this morning here on Morning Barbados, following yesterday's commemoration. Ambassador Comishong, Odalis, Jamal, thank you for coming and sharing with us this morning. We definitely, this is a conversation on CARICOM. And that's why you're so important, Ambassador, to Morning Barbados, so that we could hear these personal accounts of events which have helped to shape our region and help us to rise from the ashes and move forward and look for better. Again, appreciate you and appreciate you, Odalis.
Thank you very much
for coming on Morning Barbados this morning. Thank you for sharing that story. Of course, the commemoration yesterday, and we will share some of the sites right here on Morning Barbados.